I found an article uh, as reported in the Sunday Times. The headline reads Braving Robbery and Rape in Race to Reach U.S. Before Trump takes over. Migrants are risking the Darien Gap, a perilous 70-mile jungle trail connecting North and South America before an unexpected border crackdown. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's get the conversation started with this article. Okay, here's a photo here, and the caption reads A Venezuelan woman and her daughter board a canoe. The route into America crosses isolated and dangerous areas. And let me see if I could make this a little bigger here. I'm going to try. As you can see, this is a mother and daughter inside a canoe, and she's covering her daughter's ears, I think, in the attempt to shelter her from the roaring water. So, welcome to Tyrone Bowman Live on this early morning edition. So, according to the Sunday Times, in a distant corner of southeastern Panama, 15 men, women, and children sat on a fallen tree in the forest resting. They had been walking for 3 days through one of the most inhospitable tracts of jungle in the world. Besides torrential downpours, mountainous terrain, and raging rivers, they had to endure horrors that many haunt them forever. A day before, a group of 4 men with shotguns and machetes had emerged from a bamboo thicket, shouting at them to kneel on the ground. They took all our money and food, said Abel Rojas, 42, a street seller from Venezuela. A woman in a pink t-shirt and black leggings stood up and put her hands on her chest and groin, mimicking what the men had done to her, sexually assaulting her while they searched for money they believed she had hidden on her. They torched me here, there, pardon me, they touched me here, there, everywhere looking for money, she said. Another of the migrants, Amilcar Morales, 32, also from Venezuela, spoke to me quietly as the group set off walking once more. It's very difficult having to watch things done to your wife, powerless, while they point guns at you. 6 other women in the group suffered the same. From the Sahara to the Mediterranean and the English Channel, this is the age of mass migration and dangerous odysseys for those fleeing desperate situations in search of a better life. There could hardly be a more daunting gateway to this dream than the so-called Darien Gap, a roughly 70-mile stretch of isolated mountainous jungle, which spans the border of Colombia and Panama. As the only strip of land connecting North and South America, it has become the world's busiest highway for migrants traveling to get into the U.S. For many, the journey starts on a plane to wherever they can afford in South America and a bus journey up to Colombia. From there, it evolves, entering the dense jungle of the Darien Gap to cross the border into Panama on foot and in boats, aided by people smugglers and trafficking gangs. If they make it out the other side, they continue on through Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and finally into Mexico, the last frontier before the United States border, and on the other side of it, the American dream. From wild animals to venomous snakes and insects, the threats faced by migrants here are legion. Many of those who wander into this wilderness never come out. The skeletons, grim landmarks for those who follow, a terrifying reminder of the dangers they face. Yet migrants come from all over the world, not only from the region's failed states such as Venezuela, which has lost roughly 1/3 of its population over the past few years, but also from troubled countries further away, including Syria, Iran, Bangladesh, and China. Last year alone, some 500,000 migrants walked through the Darien jungle. The figure for 2024 is expected to be even greater. And this article, by the way, let me give credit to the writer, was written by Matthew Campbell and Bajo Chiqueto for the Sunday Times. So these are their words I'm quoting here. These are not my words. So now back to this. The writer continues to say, when I followed part of the jungle trail last week, I met a Nigerian entrepreneur, an Angolan electrician, and a shoe salesman from Haiti. They had all got on flights from their countries to South American cities from where they boarded buses up to the northeast of Colombia. Young and old, men and women, all I spoke to were united by a single vision, reaching America before President-elect Donald Trump reaches the White House on January 2020. For many, the peril is worth it to reach a country where they can live safely, seek asylum, and may already have friends and relatives to help them set up a life. Many brought with them tales of robbery and sexual violence. Some bore grim videos of those who have died along the way. Americans must be more conscious of the fact that this is their problem, not Panama's. The Panamanian leader, Jose Raul Milano, told me in his presidential palace last week. The migrants want to go north. It's their dream, the American dream. We must resolve this in a bilateral way with the U.S. How about you come out of your palace and meet them where they are? How about you stop living in a lack of luxury and be concerned about the lives of everyday people? Panama, a close American ally, was trying to control the migrant flow, he said. It was fencing off parts of the remote and mountainous border with Colombia and beginning repatriation flights of some migrants. But everything indicates that this human drama unfolding in the jungle is going to continue, leaving families with dead and children without fathers, he said. The robbed Venezuelans had set off from Colombia a few days before to cross some 70 miles of marsh, rivers, and mountainous jungle. In part of Panama's Darien region, inhabited only by a few indigenous Imbira people who hunt in the forests with blowpipes. Not only had the children in the group been sexually assaulted by men looking for hidden cash, the group had witnessed horrific scenes, bodies washed up on the riverbank or rotting in the jungle. One of them showed me a photo of a body on a stony beach by the river, the skull picked clean by Panama's ambiguous black vultures. Finger bones emerging from the sleeves of a blue shirt. Another displayed a video of a pale-faced Venezuelan man lying on his back, gasping about to die, apparently from a heart attack. The group that found him tried to comfort him and photographed his passport so they could notify his family of his death. Other migrants have disappeared after getting lost in the jungle, drowning in the rivers, or falling from cliffs. As a matter of fact, let me show you this photo here. You can see from this photo how individuals are desperately trying to make it to America. The article continues to read, as we walked along a mud track flanked by banks of banana leaves and bamboos, Michael Torres from, this is a hard name here. I'll try to pronounce it. Maracaibo in northwestern Venezuela told me that he and his wife and 3 young daughters had passed through these bodies along the way. Is that a dead man, Papa? His youngest child, Gabriella, a 5-year-old, who walked with a little red rucksack on her back, asked him as she looked at a person's legs sticking out of a small tent. Another body was thought to be that of a girl. It had been eaten by animals, Torres said. Soon after that, his wife, Francesca, had almost slipped off a cliff to her death, badly hurting her knee, which was now in a brace. Torres, a carpenter, told me he had decided to flee after Nicolas Maduro, the leftist Venezuelan president, rigged an election to avoid letting his opponent win power and crack down on the resulting mass protests with a new wave of oppression. Torres had been helping to strip a giant portrait of Maduro off a billboard. The police had come looking for him at his home, prompting the family to leave the country for the Darien Gap. We just want to lead a normal life somewhere safe, where the children can grow up in peace and where I can work, he said. The Venezuelans had traveled by bus across their own vast country before entering Colombia and heading north to the jungle. Many are drawn to America because they already have friends or family there to stay with. Wading across a bend in the coffee brown Turquesa River, we arrived in Bajo Chiquita, an Imbria community miles from any roads. The migrants come limping on blistered feet, put up tents for their night. Some 800 had arrived in the settlement already that day. Outside of the sacks was a sign saying Wi Fi $2 an hour. An enterprising local has installed a startling satellite dish on the roof, bringing internet to the jungle. It allowed Torres to inform his mother in Maracaibo that he, Francesca, and the girls had arrived safely in Panama. She was crying on the phone, he said. Down the road, Esmeralda Dumasa, the village elder, sat with her hair under a red shawl. She had heard the columns of robberies or claims of robberies and female migrants being raped. Pardon me, I meant to say migrants, of female migrants being raped. If it's our men doing it, they will be punished, she said. Meanwhile, these travelers can stop here for a shower and wash their hair, she added. Nearby, men were slaughtering a giant pig to offer meals at $5 a plate with rice and lentils. Another local delicacy are the fresh water shrimps the Embria spear in the river. In a muddy alley, I met Mangina Neje, 36, a school teacher from Cameroon in Central Africa. She looked depressed, wishing she could return to her homeland. I thought that the Darien Gap was a highway with cars, she said. Various relatives had contributed to the cost of her passage, which included a flight from Douala, a city in Cameroon, to Bogota, the Colombian capital, in the hope she could get a job and send money home from America. Like the others, she had to pay $500 to a criminal gang to be guided into the green wilderness of northeastern Colombia, where she was told a trail marked by bits of blue or green plastic tied to branches would lead her across the Darien Gap into Panama. She would need a lot more money for canoes, buses, and other forms of transport in order to cross five Central American countries before reaching Mexico and the American border. Nadij had made friends with some Venezuelans who account for about 60% of the migrant flow. They are very friendly. As she said, one of them, Daniel, had braved the torrent, clutching his 2 month old baby Laura. She's very, very quiet, he said, looking down at the little bundle in his arms. I've carried her like this for most of the way. In the morning, the weary travelers paid $50 each to board Porquegas to take them downriver and ever closer to their destination. As they waited to get on the bus, some posted for selfies with children, excited to be on the move once more, this time seated in the relative comfort of a motorized canoe. So you can see Daniel from Venezuela as he carries his 2 month old daughter, Laura, in Bajo Chiquita to register with Panama's border police. So here's a photo of the father with his daughter. You can almost see the frightening look. You can almost see the frightening look in his eyes. He's clutching his daughter to make sure that no harm comes to her. Continuing with the article, crossing that jungle was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, said Guardaro Gonzalez, 66, a municipal councilor from Venezuela and vocal critic of the Maduro regime, who had attracted the state's wrath with his online talk show, Morning Coffee with Gerardo. Nearby, Nadia and her daughter, Alejandria, 21, were tending to the family pet. Sorry, my glasses keep sliding down. Toby, a terrier. He had traveled with his head poking out of a rucksack all the way from Caracas, the Venezuelan capital. As the boat started downriver, cormorants and kingfishers took flight, startled by the whine of the engines. 2 hours later, the migrants disembarked in Lagas Blancas, a settlement close to the main road to Panama City, the capital. Here they would pay for buses to take them north to the Costa Rican border. First, they had to quell for security checks and register with Panama's immigration authorities. In the line was Juan Almedo, a vegetable seller from the Venezuelan city of, I'm not even trying to pronounce this, I'll spell it. Barquisimeto, uh, Barquisimeto, who had sold a car for $1,000 to finance his journey and hoped to reach Houston in Texas, where he had a cousin. Like all the others, he was eager to get to America before Trump's inauguration. Trump doesn't want migrants in America, he said, but he should show humanitarian spirit and help us. We are decent, hard-working people. Amaldo, who had left behind children of 10 and 7 at home with their mother, began to cry as he thought of them. But he was glad he had not brought them with him. He and other Venezuelans he was traveling with had been targeted by the machete gang of robbers. So here's another photo of them canoeing through the jungle here. I may have to do a part two on this article. Oh, actually, I won't. It's coming to an end. They insulted and humiliated us, he said, describing how men with indigenous features, one with bleached yellow hair, had taken $50 from him and the others. Women and two girls suffered a worse fate, subjected to the same sexual assaults as those in the other group. Two women in their 20s were held back to be raped, said Amaldo. They were allowed to rejoin their families later. Many more perils lurk along the road to the north, particularly in lawless Mexico. Much of those territory is under the sway of ruthless drug cartels, which often kidnap and kill migrants. Some suffocate in poorly. This is a terrible tragedy. The teacher from Cal, let alone come. If I had known Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit.